Hello, Christopher Brent here, coming to you today with a musical podcast on choosing the right piano for you. So maybe you are in the process of purchasing a new piano and you have questions, thoughts, and concerns. I'm here to address all of that. So let's get down to business. I am a piano teacher and a music educator, as well as a pianist from Michigan here in the United States, and I'm going to break things down here so you can understand aspects of different piano manufacturers and some of the strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons, and all of that. So I'm going to talk about some of the instruments I've played on, what I prefer, and how that may not be what you prefer. Just because I like it doesn't mean that someone else will like it just the same way. Everybody's different. So touch is a big thing, preference, that's a big part of choosing an instrument. So I'm going to talk about this all from a performer's perspective or a pianist perspective, because I am not a piano technician. I will throw that out there right away. I am not a piano technician. I have some basic knowledge and basic understanding of things as far as how a piano works. Because I have a music degree in piano performance, we did have to do a little study on the inside of a piano, and I've discovered things by taking pianos apart here and there. But I've always had a technician nearby to help me put it back together. So anyway, so let's get down to the list of pianos. So what's the best piano in the world, right? So we hear so much about Steinway, and is it what it's all cracked up to be and everything? The answer is yes. Steinway is one of the best piano manufacturers in the world. They make pianos in New York and in Germany. And yes, the piano that my favorite piano, I should say, that I have ever played, the number one piano that comes to my mind, the piano that responded the way I wanted it to, that sounded just so beautiful, there's no words, that was a Steinway. It was a Steinway D from the early 1900s. I want to say it was 1903. Of course, it was restored, and I forget who did the restoration job on it, but it was just so amazing the way it was restored, and I mean, it was just the most beautiful thing. I was fortunate enough to give a recital on it when I was 16, and the instrument just the richness, I can't even begin to tell you. So I'm going to try to stop myself from going off the deep end on that and get down to the next group of pianos here and talk a little bit about that. So the best pianos in the world, the most premier manufacturers, that might not be what you need, and that's the thing. So we have Steinway, Bösendorfer, Fazioli is another amazing piano maker that you may not have heard of, an Italian manufacturer. They only make about 120 or so instruments a year. They're very, very, very expensive. It's probably the most expensive instrument in the world. They're, just hundreds of thousands of dollars. Bechstein is another premier piano that's just phenomenal. One of my favorites is a company called Sauter, which is a European piano that the few that I've played are just absolutely phenomenal. The richness and the sonority is just breathtaking, and the touch. That's what I'm primarily looking at. When I do what I do, is the piano responding the way I feel it or the way I want it to come out. So with these instruments, with many Steinways, not all, there are some Steinways I've played that were just either not in good condition or they just weren't responding the way I wanted them. And that does happen. Every piano is its own unique individual work of art. So you have to play on it and see if it works well for you. So that, I should say, is one of the most important things. So you can't say every Steinway is good automatically. It's not. So you got to be careful and do your homework and sit down and test out some pianos here. Yes, Steinway is amazing. I've played on a Bösendorfer before. I've played on one that was pretty good, and I played on another one that I wasn't crazy about. And the price tag on the Bösendorfer was hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you can find a piano for several $100,000 that just doesn't suit you. So you got to play and see if it fits your sense of touch. So that's the thing. That same instrument that I didn't like so much could have been perfect for somebody else, right? So that's the thing. So among another great piano manufacturer that you might hear about. That's when you get into Yamaha and Kawai. And yes, there are some instruments that are beautiful by both Yamaha and Kawai, and there's other ones that I played that are just not very good at all, really. So the Yamaha and Kawai are kind of really all over the map. You get some that are pristine, beautiful, and respond well, and then there's others that are just in the process of manufacturing, just didn't come out very well. They're a little more mass-produced, so now we're kind of they're kind of at the bottom of the list, I would say, of premier pianos. I think there's many other European pianos that you could put above Yamaha and Kawai if you really had to. Of those, Petrov is one that I would kind of recommend a little bit more, so to speak, because just the way they're manufactured, the way they're put together, the beauty, the sonority of the tone, I certainly am a little biased to that. So Petrov is a great piano manufacturer from the Czech Republic. They're amazing. They have wonderful pianos. So Yamaha and Kawai certainly do have wonderful pianos, but they're a little more mass-produced, so you don't quite get some of the elements there. Sometimes, with Yamaha and Kawai, the brightness can just be a little bit difficult, maybe for classical music. I've recorded on Yamahas doing commercial music projects and new age and jazz projects and things like that. So it works well in that context, but it really just depends on the individual instrument that you have. I mean, I could sit down at a Steinway and be just kind of like so-so with that one, and then sit down at Kawai or something and then be like, wow, this just fits me, So that's really the most important thing that you have to do. Buying a piano online, I don't know if I could ever do that, because I want to test out the instrument for a long time and see how well it fits my approach and my style. And also, you got to look at, does this piano go through all of the styles well? Can you play Baroque music? Can you play classical music? Can you play romantic music? Can you play jazz if you want to do that? Can you do all of those things? Some pianos are just good for maybe Baroque or classical. Maybe they don't have the range, or so to speak, to get through for you to express romantic music the way you want to. So you got to look at all of those things too. So let's talk about kind of more middle-of-the-road pianos. There's a few great manufacturers that I like. Przina is one. Przina is a little bit newer on the market, at least here in America. About 90% of the parts are European-made, and that always that's something that's really cool. Many piano manufacturers have been bought out over the years that you don't see as much anymore, like maybe like Weber, I think. I'm just thinking of all these brands I used to see all the time that I just don't anymore. Another good piano manufacturer I don't want to leave off the list of really good premier pianos is Estonia. They make amazing instruments. But yeah, this middle-of-the-road thing, that's where we kind of get into Baldwin. That I think they're kind of middle-of-the-road. They kind of flirt between like being a good... they were kind of a premier instrument, but then every time I played a Baldwin, I could just never get into it. So that was just me. I'm not a Baldwin person. I could never jump on that bandwagon. That's just me. Other people like it, that's fine, but I could never get on the Baldwin bandwagon. There's a few other good German manufacturers, Schimmel and August Forster. They make good instruments. They're expensive. I could never really get on that bandwagon either. So the feel, again, I'm going back to feel. I would sit down and play a Schimmel piano that was an upright for $20,000, and I'm just like, I can't quite get the response out of this instrument. It's $20,000 probably because of the way everything is shaped inside, as far as soundboard and things like that, technical stuff that only the technicians would know. But I'm sure it's a beautiful instrument. It just didn't do what I wanted it to do, so that's that's the thing. So be picky. Many pianos are expensive, right? So when you're putting in an investment that you're going to be dealing with for many, many years, sometimes decades. So you got to do your homework, test out pianos, ask questions. go to someone you trust. Go to a piano retailer you trust. The piano retailer that I have gone to over the years is someone I've trusted, and it's been a great relationship. And that's key. If you have someone you think is just trying to play games or sell you something, or if they're being dishonest, that's not a good thing, right? So go to somebody you trust. I wouldn't just try to find something used cheap online from somebody, unless you're just really, really, really on a super budget and you want something just maybe for your kids to get started with, and that's fine. There's lots of instruments from churches and people giving away instruments that are in at least workable condition that are good for starters. That's fine. So I'm primarily talking about in this podcast, the next level up from that, when you want to go from sort of the cheap, used, old instrument and kind of graduate into something that's a little bit more middle of the road, or maybe a really pristine instrument that you want to invest in to play on. So these really top-notch pianos like Steinway and Bösendorfer, they're great instruments, and you have to just kind of sort through them individually, basically, and find the one that best fits your style and your personality. But to talk about Steinway, are they all what they're cracked up to be? Basically, yes, they are. They're really that good. I mean, most of the time when I sit down on a Steinway, I feel like the instrument is going to do what I want it to do. The same thing goes for Bösendorfer. There's another one. What did I miss? Blutner? That was another German one. That's a very world-renowned manufacturer. But I would just be mindful of some other instruments, maybe Baldwin, Mason, and Hamlin. There's another one called Boston, which uses Steinway parts, but is not like fully a Steinway. So you got to be careful. Don't let someone say that a Boston is the same thing as a Steinway, because it's not quite there. So it's just like kind of dealing with cars, used cars or something. You kind of just, people can kind of like sell you on certain things and not tell you the whole truth. Yeah, and another thing too is price tag is not everything, right? Many times a Steinway is cheaper than a Bösendorfer or a Fazioli or something like that, and you might find that, the cheaper piano, so to speak, or the smaller price tag is actually, that piano is better for you. So I never really got on the Bösendorfer Fazioli bandwagon. I was, I never said, oh, this piano's $300,000, so I'm automatically going to like it or something. I never really even thought about the price whatsoever, as far as, at least, will the piano do what I want it to do? That's really all that matters to me. When I sit down, does it sound the way I want it to sound? And when I touch the keys, in however manner I touch the keys or use the pedals, is it going to deliver what I want? And if I feel like I'm doing something and the piano is not giving me back what I want, then I basically move on to the next the next instrument. That's if I have to be really super picky, which I want to do if I'm giving a performance, especially at an elite venue, if I have the choice, or if I'm recording or something. I have to be picky like this, right? So brands and price tag are not everything, right? You've got to just sit down and make an educated decision about things once you play it. So playing it is obviously a big part of it. But some of these middle-of-the-road brands, if you want to call it, like Perzina, High-Loon is another one. In America, at least, the pianos that we get here from High-Loon are very good. High-Loon is a Chinese company that makes amazing instruments. And you may not have heard of High-Loon, right? And that's the thing. Just because you haven't heard of the piano doesn't mean that it's not good, right? There's some teachers I know that they'll just send they'll send their student to get a piano, and they'll just say, get Yamaha and Kawai, that's it, just because I know those brands, that's it, don't get anything else. And that's not the way to go, because there's many manufacturers out there that make pianos that are at least as good as Yamaha and Kawai, if not better. So you want to do your research on those, because if you're going to spend several $1,000s or tens of thousands of dollars, you want to be well equipped with knowledge and do your research on these things, because Perzina is a great brand, High-Loon is a great brand, Sauter and Zeiler is another one. I could go on and on about, these European pianos that are amazing. Petrov, of course, is another one I love. So they're out there. Look into the European pianos. They make a lot of affordable, middle-of-the-road pianos that can easily compete with Yamaha and Kawai. So check them out. If you have any thoughts, feel free to comment. Send me an email at chrisbrentmusic@gmail.com. Check out my webpage, www.christopherbrent.com. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, so hopefully this gives you some insight on pianos and piano manufacturers. Hopefully I didn't go on and ramble too much, which I can do on occasion when it comes to music because I love talking about music. So I have several podcasts up on my YouTube channel. Check those out. And I will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful day.